Right, so tonight's planting is once again in two parts, and first up tonight we have one that has many, many names. So this is sometimes sold as Gunda, sometimes sold as Indian fig, sometimes sold as Birdlime. It's sold as a whole range of different names, often relating to snottiness or sourness, because it is a very mucilaginous fruit when it's ripe. But probably the easiest name to stick to it is Cordia dichotoma, but even that gets a little bit wibbly because it might be better called Cordia mixer. I think that is just the sort of domesticated form gets that name, so whether it's entirely valid, I'm not sure. But it's a many-named fruit, here's the point. It's also quite a useful fruit, so not only is that the snottiness of the fruit quite useful in making glues and adhesives, you can also eat the fruit, so you can put it into pickles, into curries, especially when it's underripe and it has a lovely tartness, which really enhances a lot of flavours. It's actually a really nice pickle. But you can also use it medicinally. So there's a lot of different therapies in various sort of medical traditions that use different parts of this plant for treatments. And one of the ones that I find most amusing is actually one that has popped up quite recently around Lusaka, where people are selling this as a, shall we say, enhancer for male virility, which I find ironic because the only lab studies I have seen on the fruit, which is the part that's being sold as that, have been on its fertility effects in rats, and in male rats certainly the effects were quite dramatic, which is to say the fertility dropped right off a cliff, which is kind of the opposite to the advertised effect. But anyway, this is going in with a few different companion plants. It is under the sycamore fig, so it doesn't really need so much protection, despite being sometimes sold as Indian fig. It's not remotely related to that. It's in the borage family, so the fig itself is kind of a protection, and this is not closely related to any of the other trees I've put under here, which does mean that we've got a sort of immediate chemical barrier. But we're going to be putting in a piece of one of the Senecio de Caryi, which is one of the Madagascan little succulent and fairly toxic plants, as a ground cover around this. We're also going to be putting in a nice piece of the Portrait Averrhoa, the speckboom, which under quite different conditions can get about as big as this tree will get, but in a shady spot like this it should stay relatively small. And we're also going to be putting a piece of the Dracaena fragrans as a little marker plant while everything is settling in. Second up, we've got something that I have been giving the wrong name, I'm fairly sure. So I've been calling these thin-leaved custard apples the cherimoya. I actually think some of the shorter-leaved ones I have been planting have been cherimoyas, and I've been getting them mixed up entirely with the Annona squamosa, which is the rough custard apple. I have to examine all of those because I do have both, but which ones are which I hadn't been paying close attention to. But anyway, this should actually be Annona reticulata, which I think is sometimes called the wild sop, which is a very smooth-skinned custard apple. But yeah, you can get ones which are really pleasant, and you can also get ones that are much less pleasant. It's a much more variable fruit, whereas the cherimoya is pretty consistently delicious. This one varies, so it's a good thing I've got a few, so we'll find out which ones are good and which ones are not. This is not getting so many companion plants. I've had to trim back some of the spiral ginger here. I am going to keep those trimmings because unlike true gingers, the spiral gingers grow very well from cuttings, and it's a handy one to put in to areas where you very quickly want a little bit of height. But anyway, we're going to be putting in a piece of Dracaena reflexa as a marker for this, so it doesn't get lost when the commelina around here comes up. And also we're going to be putting in a piece of the Hedychium, the butterfly ginger, to just add a little bit more ground cover directly around this, and also hopefully mark this out, because again, when the rains come, there is a lot of commelina communis, which is the yazakawa, growing around here, and that will spring right back up, and a small tree will very easily be missed in amongst that. So just to make sure I don't accidentally cut it down, markers. Right, so that should be everything for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and if you haven't enjoyed it, thank you for watching anyway. Please tune in again tomorrow, because I will be planting something different. I'm not sure what. It might not be entirely different. It might have one item in common, but we will see.